Hey everyone, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, host of 5 Minutes With, and this week I am so lucky to have Monica Ruiz, the Executive Director of Casa San Jose with me. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Natalie.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Casa San Jose is?
Sure. Casa San Jose is a nonprofit organization. We're located in the South Hills here in Pittsburgh, and we work with immigrants primarily from Mexico, Central, and South America.
And Monica, when you and I had a few conversations earlier in the year, and we'd ended up talking about ICE and the impact that ICE is having on our communities. And now with the Black Lives Matter movement, with these conversations around police brutality, defunding police departments, can you talk a little bit about the importance of connecting that correlation to ICE and what should be done because these conversations are finally being had very openly?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have to start thinking about the root causes of why things are happening, right? And a lot of it is either systemic racism or the oppression of people of color, right? And so when you have police departments that are supposed to protect and serve, and they're absolutely not doing that because their beliefs are deeply rooted in racism, that's when we have the problems that we have right now. Right? We can't sit here and talk about, there are these good officers and these good officers. Good officers become really bad when they're entrenched in this lifestyle and this culture that they're thrown into once they join these police departments. And you can see that more and more often when people are just afraid to speak up when things are happening. And it's the same thing with ICE. Let's not forget, ICE didn't exist before 2003, right? So we had a world where ICE didn't exist, and we can have a world where it doesn't exist, again. And so this is the type of world that we're talking about when we think about the correlations of what the job of police are supposed to do and what they're actually doing, right? And so we can live in a society where the police can actually do what they're supposed to do, as long as they have the resources in the community for folks to survive.
Yeah, and talking a little bit more about ICE, I don't think people understand how this organization is terrorizing communities of immigrants and people of color. Can you talk a little bit about the work on the ground that you're doing with these immigrant communities and what you're seeing?
Yeah, so again, ICE started in 2003, and it was a combination of things. Most importantly was the attacks of 9/11, and I served as the agency where if people needed to be removed from the country, then that's it's Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They enforce that. Under the Obama administration, he actually started deporting people, right? So this was a whole way of people being targeted, removed from their homes, and actively deported. And so this current administration has taken that 10.0, right? And so this is people who are living their everyday lives, who are driving to work, who are taking their kids to school, who are living amongst us, our neighbors, our family members, who at any given time cannot come home from work, and their children will be left alone. And that's just, it's this fear. It's this fear that parents have when they leave their house every morning, knowing that there's a good possibility that they won't come back. And their kids know that, right? And so we think about our kids, like kids have enough problems as it is, right? Going to school and all these other issues and looking different and being different, especially in such a honestly racist community that we live in here. And imagine being on top of that, the fear of not knowing whether or not your parents were coming home. It's not good.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because I feel like we need to humanize this conversation, because I think people just hear these buzzwords in media and they're not recognizing that these are your neighbors, these are your families, these are people that are contributing to the economy, to the communities that they live in. And these are not disposable individuals.
And I say it all the time. It's, so many folks that are immigrants, they come here and they do this crazy thing. They work and they start businesses. And when you have a business, you can hire people. And so they employ people, many of which are American, and they do, they bring a lot of vibrancy to different neighborhoods. And, people don't understand that. They think that it's somebody, that's a criminal that, is hiding under a rock and doing, that's not what these folks are.
No. And so in terms of what can we do to support Casa San Jose and these efforts to bring attention to these causes and perhaps someday dismantle ICE?
Yeah, I would love, yes, that's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
Definitely, folks, we have a newsletter that goes out. It goes out every 2 weeks, and there's always a call to action there. So really putting the pressure on our elected officials and really learning what this is all about, educating yourself so that you can have those conversations, right? Because for every conversation that I have to tell you how absolutely wrong the narrative is, there's 10 other people telling you that the narrative is correct, that immigrants are bad. And so how can we educate ourselves and not be afraid to share those stories, right? Each of us carries a certain amount of privilege, and we should use that to help spread the word of exactly what really is happening and not what, the narrative is trying to portray.
And Monica, I know we need to wrap up, but I just wanted to ask you, what is the strength of immigration, the importance of immigration in our communities? How does it build a better world, and in particular, a better Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time as well, where it's like we're a city where our population is still declining, right? Pittsburgh. And the only population that's growing is the immigrant population. So like, we want to have these vibrant cities, these great, main streets and different neighborhoods. They're going to rely on the immigrant community, right? And I mean, I've been here for 12 years, and when I first got here, Pittsburgh was pretty boring. I mean, and just like great things that folks bring here. And it's really nice to walk down the street and to see people that don't look like you and to really value what they bring to our neighborhoods.
And I think that's the key word, is recognizing that everyone has value. And that's an intrinsic thing that we all possess. Thank you so much, Monica, for joining me for 5 Minutes With, and I hope we can follow up and talk about this a lot more.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.